All right, well, it's 6:03 and it looks like we have just about everyone who registered for this meeting. So we'll go ahead and get started. Want to respect everyone's time. Thank you for joining us at this official community meeting for rezoning petition 2024-077. My name is Nolan Groce and I'm with Urban Design Partners representing the Drox Group LLC on this petition for Sandy Porter Townhomes. Joining me on this call on the development team are Graham Drury with the Drox Group and Nick Martin with Montrose Development. This petition proposes to rezone the property from N1A to N2A conditional for a townhome development. On your screen, you can see the site as it exists today from Sandy Porter Road. A few general housekeeping items. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation utilizing the chat feature. At the end of the presentation, we will go through the chat box and answer your questions. If additional information is requested, we're happy to follow up with you after the meeting. Once all questions in the chat box have been answered, we will open the meeting for attendees to unmute and ask additional questions. Since we have a smaller crowd this evening, we can have a more casual conversation. If anyone has questions following the meeting, please reach out to us via phone or email, and we're happy to meet with you one-on-one at your request. All right, here's an aerial of our site. The property is located west of I-485, south of Brown Greer and Arrowwood Roads, and east of Sandy Porter Road. Here's an additional aerial of the 11.05 acre site. You can see the Top Golf is located across I-485, the Steel Chase subdivision to the south, Whitehall Corporate Center to the northeast, and Cortland Whitehall Apartments to the northwest of the site. So what are we doing here this evening? What is zoning and what is a rezoning? Zoning is the city's method of classifying land by usage. It promotes development in a smart, reliable fashion. This chart shows current zoning districts in the City of Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance. The chart shows least intensive place types or zoning districts to the most intensive, starting with Neighborhood 1 and Neighborhood 2, which are residential place types, all the way up to ML, which is a manufacturing and logistics place type, which allows industrial uses, all the way up to the most intensive TODs, or transit-oriented developments. In North Carolina, there are two types of rezoning petitions, conventional and conditional. We are requesting a conditional rezoning, which means that we have a site plan that goes along with the petition, and we provide conditions beyond code minimum requirements. A few other important planning related items. The first is the Charlotte 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The 2040 Plan is a living document providing framework to help guide decision-making and investment in the near and long term. The Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance. The UDO replaced the City of Charlotte Zoning and Subdivision Ordinance, taking effect June 1st, 2023. The UDO simplifies and consolidates planning and development regulations into a unified document aligned with the vision of the 2040 Plan. There's also the 2040 Policy Map. This is a future land use map identifying land uses that are most suitable for future development. Here's a current zoning map for the City of Charlotte. The site is currently zoned N1A ANDO, or ANDO, which stands for the Airport Noise Disclosure Overlay District. The purpose of the overlay district is to notify residential property owners in the vicinity of Charlotte Douglas International Airport that the use and enjoyment of property is subject to flyovers and noise consistent with airport operations. That's why you can see many of the parcels, well, really, excuse me, all of the parcels east of Sandy Porter Road have the Ando overlay district. In the area, you can see many legacy zoning districts. Those date back from the zoning ordinance because they are conditional districts. There are the R3 and R4 residential at 3 units and 4 units per acre. The urban residential 2 zoning district, followed by the business B1 and B2, office, and I1 industrial zoning districts. Here's the Charlotte Future 2040 policy map for the area. The site is identified as Neighborhood 1. However, you can see it immediately abuts a community activity center to the north and east of the site. In the area, there are also Neighborhood 2 place types, parks and preserves, and a campus place type. The 2040 policy manual identifies Neighborhood 2, which is what we were requesting, as an appropriate transition abutting the Community Activity Center place type. In the first graphic, you can see when a zoning transition is needed beside each place type. According to this, a transition is needed when a Community Activity Center abuts Neighborhood 1. The second image helps show criteria for zoning map amendments. Our site is over 5 acres, abuts a preferred place type, the Community Activity Center, and is near I-485, which is a major transportation corridor. These are also considered remnant parcels fronting an arterial road. There are numerous design considerations to account for when site planning. Existing conditions such as topography, existing tree canopy. As we've discussed tonight, the City of Charlotte Unified Development Ordinance and the development regulations that will be applicable to the site. Community input, like we're doing this evening, hosting a community meeting. The 2040 plan and policy map. Existing entitlements. So what's being developed in the area and what trends do we see in nearby parcels and neighborhoods? Pedestrian safety, walkability and connectivity. Vehicular traffic patterns, looking at where to locate internal and external driveways. And then green space and natural areas. So where are these going to be located? How much land will be dedicated to this? And if there are any amenities, what do those look like? So here's our rezoning site plan for petition 2024-077. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to a rendered version of our plan, a little bit easier to look at. The rezoning plan proposes up to 143 multifamily attached townhome dwelling units. The majority of units will have a 20-foot driveway, while others will utilize a 5 to 7-foot driveway pad. 12 additional off-street parking spaces are located along the proposed public road, and we're working to identify additional guest parking, whether that's on-street or off-street surface parking spaces. Access to the site is via 2 driveways located along Sandy Porter Road. This road is proposed as public, meeting CLDSM, the Charlotte Land Development Standards Manual, residential medium roadway standards. The public road will be stubbed to the north to the existing commercial center, which is the Community Activity Center, for future connectivity. These public roads will have an 8-foot planting strip and 8-foot sidewalks on both sides of the roadways. Tree save is provided along the externality of the site, ensuring there is sufficient buffer between abutting properties and uses. Each unit will front open space or the public right-of-way, having direct access via sidewalks to the property frontage at Sandy Porter Road, where we will be installing a 12-foot multi-use path along the property frontage. We'll also be providing a minimum 10-foot Class C landscape yard along the planned eastern property boundary, abutting that existing single-family home. There's a blue stormwater control measure along the western property edge. This is shown as blue, which looks like a pond, but it does not have to be permanently full, depending on its design, whether it's proposed to be a wet pond or a sand filter. But it's likely this would only be full during heavy rain events. And potential amenities. So looking at where these would be located, there's potential for amenity area along the property frontage. There's an open space where I'm hovering my mouse. There's also large open space along the public road where we're providing those parallel parking spaces. And an additional open space towards the rear in the corner by this tree save area. So here's our tentative timeline. This is a best case scenario, which is always subject to change pending any necessary deferrals and additional coordination. Tonight, July 17th, 2024, we're hosting our petitioner community meeting. We're anticipating a public hearing date of September 16th, 2024. We would then go before the zoning committee on October 1st, 2024 to receive a recommendation on the petition. Then we would go back before city council on October 21st of this year for an ultimate final decision. Again, these are subject to change. You would receive a mailed notice related to the public hearing on that date. The city sends 2 notices. And if you have any questions about deferrals or timelines, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen. If you would like to email me or call me throughout the rezoning process, we're happy to meet with you one-on-one as requested. So everyone is aware, we are recording this meeting and we will post it online at our website, which is urbandesignpartners.com/rezoning. And that should be up, if not by the end of the week, by early next week. So now we'll go ahead and transition to the question and answer portion of our meeting. I'm going to back up to our rendered site plan. Let me pull up my Zoom controls to see if we have any questions in the chat box. Okay, I don't see any questions. Feel free to look at the site plan if you'd like me to go back to any of the previously. Oh, there we have one. Have the property owners resolved right-of-way taking with the city? Tim, can you come off mute and shed a little more light maybe into which right-of-way taking you're speaking about?
Future widening of Sandy Porter Road.
Okay, yeah. So Sandy Porter Road is identified on the Charlotte Streets map as a 4+ arterial. So the city of Charlotte has a streets map identifying streets throughout the city and their future improvements. So we've already taken into account with this site plan to relocate the back of curb 30 feet from the center line of Sandy Porter Road. We will then have to install an 8-foot planting strip and a 12-foot shared use path. So those improvements are meant to account for future widenings, ensuring there is enough right-of-way for any future road widening project.
Nolan, I think this is Justin here. I think what Tim was asking about, there's a community neighborhood improvement. I think it's called Comprehensive Neighborhood Improvement Plan,
Okay.
where the city of Charlotte is redoing the intersection with Sandy Porter and Arrowwood Brown Greer.
Mhm.
And that those improvements come up towards the site. That they're widening the road and they're shifting the right turn lane onto West Arrowwood.
Mhm.
So I think I think the question, Tim, let me know if I'm wrong, is if you guys have been coordinated with the city of Charlotte with those improvements with this site.
Sure. So as part of the petition, we would have to work with CDOT on any necessary right-of-way dedication. At this point in the design process, we're following their current design manual. We have not received our first round of comments back from the city. We anticipate to receive those at the end of the month, but that very well could be a comment received from the Charlotte Department of Transportation, which we would have to coordinate with them prior to a resubmittal.
Mhm. Within the last couple of years, there was a process with the city of Charlotte for right-of-way taking
Mhm.
on both sides of Sandy Porter Road. So that was either resolved or not resolved, I think, with these landowners. This is historic. I mean,
Okay.
this was maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago or 3 years ago. That's what my question is related to, not what's in front of you coming.
Yeah, I can't speak to the historic nature, what was several years ago. I know if you can see where I'm hovering my mouse, there's a little bit of an oblong property line where it looks like there was some right-of-way acquisition on one parcel, which was not continued through the others. We've had some preliminary discussions with CDOT about that, but we'll have to continue coordinating that as we continue with the rezoning process.
Oh, Nolan, that weird right away line right there.
Mhm.
So Sandy Porter, there used to be an old, very, very old, back in the day, Sandy Porter Road like went up through um what looks like now a little loop road in front of those uh existing properties and then came back down. So that was the old alignment of Sandy Porter. And then when the city or state came back in to redo Sandy Porter Road, they redid the alignment. So there's residual, I believe that there's residual right away still there from the old alignment.
Yeah, that's very possible. And Sandy Porter is a little bit unique where part of it is maintained by the city, and then as you progress south, it's NCDOT. Um, so it is unique in that sense.
All right. If I could go through my list of questions I
Sure.
have prepared, I'm gonna open it up. Um, I think in the N2A, in the UDO, it talks about minimum 250 square foot open space per unit, and it
Correct.
doesn't necessarily have to be private or tied
Mhm.
to each unit, but it can be spread out. However, and it looks like you guys are meeting that anyways with the minimum 10%. Or
Yeah, Justin.
oh
So
no, I see. Okay, okay, I see it now. I see it now. I didn't see it. Okay, I'm sorry. I was looking at the PDF of the rezoning plan. Okay, I see that. Thank you. Sorry.
not a problem.
Um, second, what is the space between the buildings? What is the minimum spacing between the buildings?
Yeah, so our general rule taking these projects through a rezoning is to have at least 30 feet. And that's just, it's a safe number. One, it provides ample room for sidewalks and connectivity that we would run through this open space to the public right of way. It allows us to provide tree plantings, and it also gives enough room for eventually at land development if you decided to, or if the developer decided to subdivide these parcels, there's enough land to subdivide each unit.
Yeah, I meant sorry, I meant building separation as in like the sides of the buildings.
10 feet between each
10 feet.
building. Yeah, 10
Okay.
feet minimum.
Because I remember, I don't know if it changed, if because I was looking in the UDO and I couldn't find it, but I remember in the old ordinance it was like minimum 16 feet.
So it varies based on the zoning district. Of course, the zoning ordinance was different than what we're under with the Unified Development Ordinance. The N2A requires a 5 foot side yard for each of these buildings. So combined, there is a minimum requirement of 10 feet between each building.
Okay. And I just a suggestion, it'd be nice to see a little bit of separation between the buildings, maybe 16 to 20 feet if that um just a passage suggestion along.
Sure. No, we appreciate the feedback.
Um to kind of, break it up a little bit and because right now this development looks like rows. Looks like long rows. So to make it look a little bit less monotonous
Mhm.
would be nice. Um, the other question I got is sublots. Will there be sublots for this project?
Yes, these are anticipated to be sublotted as a for sale product.
Okay. The typical dimensions of the buildings are, I mean, when I mean that, I mean like the units itself, like the length and width of each unit typically.
Yeah, so these are shown currently on the screen as 16 feet wide by 45 feet deep units.
Okay. So that's not we're talking about single car garage or double because
It could be both. So, and that's why we're showing driveways through for most of the units within the site for one, additional parking, and two, it gives flexibility with that garage, whether it ends up being a single garage, it could be a tandem garage, or if the units needed to be potentially widened at land development. Now, we could not increase where you see, for example, a four building where I'm holding my mouse. That's 16, 32, 48, and so forth. This could become potentially three buildings at a 24-foot wide. So there's some flexibility, but we cannot increase the number of units and enlarge the buildings. But still working through the development pro forma of how many one versus two car garages.
okay, and what is dictating the 143 unit count?
So that's where we landed with this design, trying to ensure we had enough space for the proposed stormwater control measure, as well as open space and providing, a sufficient external buffer. When we originally designed the plan, we had more units, and we went and had a pre-submittal meeting with staff. They requested we provided this proposed public road to the north. So that took up a sufficient amount of space. So we actually reduced the overall unit count.
Okay. So with that explanation, so I studied the rezoning plan and I looked at the topo related to this site, and it appears that the stormwater control measure to the north of the property, that's on the high side of the property. However, the low part of the property is um where the Sandy Porter Road label is. It's in between the proposed 12-foot shared path and Sandy Porter Road label.
Yeah, the frontages are the low points right at this driveway. It is 660, and down in the southeastern plan quarter, it's 662. We'll have to grade this site out, looking at the high points and the low points. But of course, we'd have to make sure that the pond is located appropriately to contain the stormwater and that the seasonal high water table is appropriate.
Yeah, no, the reason why I bring that up because the it all drains to there. I think there's a culvert crossing underneath Sandy Porter Road, and it dumps through the 12 Oaks neighborhood, which is where I live.
Okay.
So that low point is at the front right there, in between that big parcel, where it has one house on it, and then the uh 12 Oaks neighborhood. that property line right there. So that's at the 660 contour elevation. And but my concern is having this dense of a development um affecting the downstream homeowners where all that stormwater goes through the lots and through the neighborhood. And I understand there's the tension and things like that. Um, but typically during like heavy rain flows, the neighborhood has seen um, some some flooding in the creek and channels.
Okay. Yeah, so City Stormwater Services does look at each rezoning plan and we will receive comments from them. If they feel that it's going to be best for us to, rather than having one large pond here, we could potentially break that into two ponds and relocate one potentially along the frontage or the planned eastern portion of the site for sure. But no, knowing the existing and historical stormwater patterns is useful. The city and state stormwater regulations require us to keep the stormwater patterns the same as they are today. We cannot increase velocity of stormwater. And it gets a little technical and we can discuss that, or if you'd like to chat offline about that, we can as
Okay.
well.
Because the reason I bring that up, because you said that the max units you're showing here is based on the layout, but that could cause the layout to change, potentially, and then also the connections to Sandy Porter Road as well, um, which has to do with where you got that the along the road frontage. That's another question I have as well is turn lanes
Mhm.
into the development.
Yeah, so that's something that is very possible when we get our comments back from CDOT that a TIS could be required and turn lanes into the site could be mitigation as part of that assessment.
Okay. Something, a suggestion that I would like to see, and didn't happen with the rezoning of the Portland Whitehall apartments.
Okay.
There was supposed to be a pedestrian crossing between those apartments and over to the Whitehall corporate park
Mhm.
with a hawk beacon, and that never happened. Suggestion to make, since we're having a dense development here and thinking about there's an activity center nearby, the corporate Whitehall, the Whitehall Corporate Business Park, having folks walk and bike ride and being more of like a walkable neighborhood. It would be nice to see a pedestrian crossing over Sandy Porter Road, um, be, from this site over to the other side of Sandy Porter Road.
Sure,
Um,
that's an
for that,
improvement that we could discuss with CDOT. If there was one required with that the apartment complex, I can look into that to see if it was a condition of their rezoning approval. On our side of the road, we will be providing a 12-foot shared use path up to the existing sidewalk. So we will be providing some additional connectivity to that community activity center.
yeah, just to be able to have the improvement of you guys are looking to rezone for a more denser um uh project to be able to maybe have that negotiation of um having a safe pedestrian crossing across the road. And I can tell you that there's a lot of people that walk their dogs and bike ride up and down the sidewalk along Sandy Porter, between Arrowwood and South Tryon. Um, just to be able to have that safe, just be able to have or even consider a safe pedestrian crossing um, over Sandy Porter Road would be a nice idea. And also on that topic, it would also be nice to see the multi-use path, a multi-use path connect to the Whitehall uh business park where they have the landscaping buffer to be able to have that connection and maybe negotiate with them so that way we have a pedestrian friendly neighborhood. So let's just say someone who works in the business park can actually walk to work, and not have to go down Sandy Porter or take the sidewalk and go up and do an extra half-mile walk to be able to get to work where they could, um, cut through that east side of the project.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we could explore. As proposed, we'll be carrying those sidewalks through the site up to that potential stub road. Subdivision staff's thinking is, when this property, if it's redeveloped, there would be a public road continuing to that site. But as you're seeing on the screen, the shared use path is accessible. That'll be public. The internal sidewalks will be public, and that could be a future connection.
Yeah, yeah. What I'm getting at is if it's possible to negotiate with the property owner of the Whitehall Business Park to be able to make a connection to that parking lot area with a multi-use path from this project. I guess from that stub road, you would continue to make the multi-use path go through that buffer of landscaping or whatever, and then connect to the parking lot for folks to have easy access, um, to that business park, especially for folks that want to live close by to work in this neighborhood.
Sure. Yeah,
Just
that's a good point. Walkability and connectivity. We can explore that with the property management group there. We have their mailing address.
okay. And also there's a nice pocket of trees. It's like a almost triangular shape at the northeast corner, I get of the site. I guess uh plan north of the stormwater control measure where the
Mhm.
buildings and stuff are. Where those like first two buildings
Yeah. Can you
are.
can you see my
It's
mouse
a
on the screen?
yes, right in that area. It's a nice pocket of trees. That would be nice to save because everywhere else it's kind of everywhere existing trees on the site are kind of scattered throughout, and there's not like a heavy pocket of saving. So it'd be nice to maybe consider that area there of saving those trees.
Okay. Yeah, we could potentially relocate that in building over to this open space and pull that tree save area out farther.
Okay. I got two more things. Amenity. Is
Mhm.
there any planned amenity? Like it doesn't have to be a swimming pool or anything like that, but like a programmed open space where you got like maybe a gazebo or neighborhood gathering, something like that.
Yes, and we're still kind of working through where the best location for that's going to be, whether it's going to be in this portion of open space to the north, as you're looking at the plan, the northeastern corner, where I'm hovering my mouse. If that's somewhere more central to the site, maybe along this proposed public road with that additional on-street parking, or if it's split maybe between this frontage area where the right-of-way curves back, a small amenity there, um, central and toward the rear. We're still working through how that's going to program out and what it looks like, whether it's a dog park in one section, a grilling, pergola, seating area, enhanced landscaping area. But yes, we're definitely looking at the amenities and how to incorporate them into this site.
Okay. Also, who is the builder? Who is potentially the builder? And are there renderings or examples of other um projects in the Charlotte area that are similar to this?
Yeah, so the petitioner on this is the Drox Group LLC. Recently did a rezoning petition with them on South Tryon Street. We do have elevations for that project. I'm happy to send those over to you. We do not have any narrowed down yet on this site.
Okay, so there's not a home builder in place.
Not at this site at this time.
Okay, so this is just to get something rezoned and then see if a builder and then basically invite a builder to um basically this is like a marketing thing, right?
Sure. So the first step is getting a site entitled, making sure it's zoned for the development pro forma. And then ultimately, working with a particular builder, whether the petitioner and their team would like to do the horizontal and vertical construction, or bring on a local Charlotte builder for the development. Correct.
Okay. And then just a suggestion overall I'd like to see. I think many other residents, I'm kind of disappointed that many other people didn't join this meeting. Um, but it would be nice to see maybe larger, like wider units, larger units, and a little bit less density. It'd be nice to see something between maybe 8 units to 10 units an acre. I think would be fair because right now it looks like we're at 14 or 13 units an acre.
Let me do a quick run. I believe we're around 12 and change on this one. Let's see.
This is an 11-acre property.
Yeah, 12.9, which with rezoning petitions in Charlotte for neighborhood two, we're seeing anywhere from the 11 and a half to 13 range is pretty standard for neighborhood two.
Okay. But it just be nice to see it like a little bit less intense because when I'm looking at this looks very, very, very dense compared to the surrounding neighborhoods, which I think the neighborhood to the south is in 4 units per acre, and then my neighborhood across Sandy Porter Road, 12 Oaks, is 3 units. I'm sorry, yeah, 3 units for 3 houses per acre. So it just looks very, very dense. And it's a little shocking to the system to kind of see this dense in this part of the of my neighborhood.
Sure. Yeah, that's abutting the community activity center with the policy manual. This is this is the type of development that foresees in the future. I can understand it's seeming dense, definitely. And that's the benefit of going through the conditional rezoning process. We get to have community engagement meetings like this. We can have a dialogue, meet with neighbors, residents, see what your thoughts are, items that you would like incorporated, that ultimately we're requesting a denser zoning district from neighborhood one to neighborhood two. But are there building elevations? What types of conditions can be incorporated that help balance that additional density?
Okay. Uh, Thank you. One last thing. I'm on the Steel Creek Residents Association, and
Okay.
we do our monthly uh, land use meetings with our board members and our land use members as well. And it would be nice if you guys would be able, you and the petitioner would be able to present to our monthly board meeting.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'd be happy to do that, Justin.
okay, thank you. Because I think you've been a one of them before too, on another project, if I can recall. But normally in Steel Creek, we have the petitioners normally come to us before the community meetings, like come to the Steel Creek Residents Association to present and gather our feedback before doing like the community meetings. Um, but I'd still like to see if you guys be able to present to us. as well.
Of course, yeah, we're happy to do that. I went ahead and reached out to Virginia Key, who's very active in that area, several weeks ago to let her know this was going to be coming. We're actually hosting this community meeting a little earlier in the process than we typically would. About a month earlier. We submitted this several weeks ago. We wanted to go ahead and notify neighbors about the petition and get started with the community engagement as early as we could. But yeah, Justin, we're happy to meet with the association.
Okay.
Utilities.
Virginia probably wasn't the best person because she's on and off. She's like she's retiring a little bit from
Okay.
the board. She's not as active. But Dave Wiggins, if you have Dave Wiggins' contact, or you have my contact, uh it should be in the RSVP.
It is. Mhm.
Um but I can get your email and I can coordinate that meeting if it's next month um or in September, if it's in August or September, whatever you guys are available.
Okay. That sounds
But
great.
all right, let's chat offline. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you for being with us this evening. Thank you for your questions.
You're welcome.
All right. Let me check the chat.
Let's say no, we got one more from Karen.
Yes. So are any considerations for neighbors living in front of the property, specifically in the case of traffic and how this will impact neighboring communities during school season? Traffic does not move, and this development will worsen the situation. Sure, traffic is generally a concern with new developments. And that's where taking this through the rezoning process, working with CDOT, we'll have to look at potential congestion issues, existing issues, and the impacts of this development and mitigate any potential impacts. We could not lower the level of service of Sandy Porter Road and the abutting roadways than they are today. I expect when we receive our comments back in several weeks that CDOT will have a note about roadway improvements and about either a transportation memorandum or one of their improvement policies, and we'll have to meet the standards of that.
Thank you for that. I have another question. So, recently, with the latest developments around the neighboring community, with density, there has been a lot of safety issues. Uh, how is this going to be like a renting community, or is this going to be an owner community? What's the point on that?
These are proposed as for sale units, ownership.
Okay.
I think Karen brought up a good point. So there's a neighborhood up the street on Brown Greer called Pringle Towns, and that was supposed to be for sale, and it was for sale.
Mhm.
But then there was a corporation came through and bought up a whole bunch of townhomes, and now they're renting them out, and it's called Waypoint at Pringle Towns. Um, what is there something that can be put in place to I don't know the official terminology or written language for um to prevent something like that from happening, maybe like a 2 year um thing. I've seen that in other rezonings.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Justin. That is a common question. Um, Unfortunately, through the rezoning process in North Carolina, ownership versus rental, it's not a permissible consideration. We could not condition that X units have to be for sale, or one entity can only own X units within this development. That could not be part of the rezoning. Now, there may be another avenue to approach that subject and address concerns outside of the rezoning, but we're unable to incorporate a condition like that through this process.
Okay, thank you. It's just it's more satisfying to see home ownership than someone just and being invested in the community and not having someone just renting.
Of course.
And we really need that in Charlotte. Just more home ownership, I think, is what we desperately need in Charlotte. This I got something that just popped up in mind. ADA.
Mhm.
Have you guys considered? I know it's been a topic, and we can talk more in the Steel Creek Residents Association with our board members and such. But we always bring it up about kind of accessibility, like ADA. We like to see, maybe a few units set aside for um, a little bit more accessible, friendly.
Okay.
Um, just a suggestion on that.
I'll be honest, when I hear ADA, I was thinking the shared use path and sidewalks, which of course would have to meet ADA standards.
It,
If you're looking, yeah, the units, I think there could be potential challenges because these are proposed as townhomes, so stairs could be a challenge, but I'm happy to look into that. That's an interesting question.
okay. And sorry if I keep going on. I keep unraveling. I'm looking at the site plan right now, and it looks like there's two there's a pair of rows where you got the buildings, you got open space between the buildings.
Mhm.
And I don't know where the front facade is supposed to be, but for I'm assuming the on the outside rows, those are alley loaded, and the front facade would face the open space. But then where you have the the proposed stub road, the
Mhm.
I think that's the public, I think it's a public stub road.
It is.
Um, are the front facades facing that? So now you have the front facade of the alley townhomes facing the rear of the townhomes that are along the proposed stub road.
So still working through that some with the city, if they will allow us to utilize this open space as a forecourt, which was our initial proposal for these units to front on the open space, looking at one another. And originally this was a proposed private alley. We had this roadway aligned a little bit differently, but had to modify that as a proposed public road stub. So still working through that, how they're going to make us consider the frontage here, if that's going to have to be the proposed road stub or if we can utilize the open space.
Okay. Because that was one of the things back and I know the UDO is so much to digest, but I recall from the past ordinance that the front facade would have to face the right of way. Um, so if those were alley loaded product on, let's just say if they're the rear load product along the proposed stub road where the front facade faces the open space, I believe back in the old ordinance that wasn't allowed.
Yeah, so and there's a few ways if that is the way staff interpret the current UDO, to put false facades, excuse me, so that the proposed public road, if that would be considered the front and it would look like a front with the driveway, and then the open space could be the technical rear of those buildings could be presented to look like an additional front facade, to still give the forecourt feeling with sidewalks and trees running through them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions.
You're welcome.
All right, if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to come off mute and ask them or type them into the chat box. Not seeing any, I'm going to jump ahead back to my contact information. If you'd like to contact me after this meeting, feel free to email me at ngroce@urbandesignpartners.com or give me a call at 704-334-3303. As I mentioned earlier, this meeting is being recorded, and the recording will be posted online at our website at urbandesignpartners.com/rezoning. All right, I've seen a few people jump off the call, and I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat box. It is 6:54 p.m. this evening. I think at this point we can go ahead and call our meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you for your feedback. We look forward to working with you throughout the rezoning process. Take care, have a great evening, and be safe.